This week's episode is brought to you by Capital Financial Advisory Group for all your retirement needs.
Broadcasting from coast to coast, it's the Financial Safari with your host, Coach Pete D'Arruda. You'll hear from some of the nation's top financial professionals. So stick around and find out how to make it through the jungle of the financial world, right here on the Financial Safari.
Welcome once again to Financial Safari, talking retirement and the right strategies for retirement. Of course, you got talked to about one-on-one with the team at Capital Financial, but Greg Berrien, Coach Pete's local trusted assistant, is here to bring us the information every week on this show. Greg, we do have a special guest.
I
in the
see.
studio.
It's kind of creeping me out. But
yeah,
okay,
well, it's Halloween was just a few days ago, so
leftover.
Well, yeah, we're still in the spirit here, but it's Mrs. Bones.
It's Christmas already, man.
Well, Mrs. Bones is getting ready in the Christmas spirit.
All right.
With
Hello,
spirits,
Miss Bones.
Hello, I needed a few drinks after Halloween.
Well, I see that.
Miss Bones likes to drink good wine, though. That's Coach's private reserve wines.
Well, Mrs. Bones
made for the firm.
She has good taste.
Miss Bones you have very good taste, Miss Bones.
She's going to be joining in also in our strategy du jour segment.
Obviously, she didn't take advantage of our strategy du jour because she didn't eat.
Right,
she's
exactly.
Bones. Oh, she's just Bones. There we go.
Okay, so we'll bring Ms. Bones back in the strategy du jour, but let's introduce you to a couple here, fictional couple, Mr. and Mrs. A. Boomer.
A. Boomer.
Yeah, and they've retired at the age of 67.
Okay.
And it's a little woulda, coulda, shoulda. That they're playing some things that they're...
I hate woulda, coulda, shoulda.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
They don't like it either because they've retired, they've launched, they're in it, and they're realizing things they didn't quite think enough about.
That happens, huh?
It does, and especially when you launch retirement and enter that first phase, the eternal weekend, they didn't think about their expenses. They didn't put it sounds like they didn't put it in writing. How important is that?
You said it right there, Dave. You said the eternal weekend. When do you spend most of your money?
On the weekend.
Well, me, I spend all mine during the week because I'm traveling all over creation.
Right.
But yeah, the average person, they spend all their money during the weekend. And so therefore, if you're not budgeting and allotting money, and the thing is you can't look like, let's say in May, and say, oh, okay, we only spent $3,000 in May. You got to look January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and so on and so forth to see truly what your budget is. So then you'll say, oh, wow, we didn't spend $3,000 a month. We actually spent $4,500 a month because there's those months like Christmas, summertime when you might be traveling.
Those annual expenses.
Yes, things that come up that it's kind of discretionary spending. But how often do people really lay back and cut back on that discretionary spending?
Well, we don't want to.
No, we don't. We don't. Of course, which is why it's so important to have that red bucket and that green bucket. Now, that green bucket would make sure that Ms. Bones has food to eat.
Right.
Okay? Ms. Bones is going to pay herself every month out of that green bucket to make sure that they can take care of the expenses. Whereas that red bucket, Ms. Bones, would be for discretionary spending, vacations, trips, gifts, things like that. So that's where you got to be really, really careful with that budgeting, Dave.
Okay, and then that leads into diversification. Before we get into that, though, one last thing on expenses. If you do a budget when you're working, does that have to be tweaked when you retire?
Absolutely.
Could it go up?
Absolutely. High income covers sins.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And I'm the worst sinner of all when it comes to that because I just like being able to buy what I want because I don't have to worry about it because I'm putting money away. I'm doing what I have to do. But I already told Sharma, I said, Sharma, if I retire, we're going to have to readjust everything. We're going to have to look at everything all over again.
Sure.
Because all of a sudden the Amazon truck coming into my driveway is going to be every other day, not every day.
Yeah.
So we're have to, you have to, when you retire, you have to kind of take a look at it and possibly, unless of course you retire with millions of dollars and you can do anything you want. God bless you, that's great. But the average person, they're working with $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, and that sounds like a lot of money, Dave. But this has got to last them for the next, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, well, that's right. You have to be careful about it. And diversification plays into that. So let's say our fictional Mr. and Mrs. Boomer retired and they thought, gosh, we weren't really properly diversified. What are the dangers of not being properly diversified?
Well, most people, when they retire, they're sitting on probably 95% of their assets in the stock market because all their assets are in a 401k, and that's just basically how they've been led. It's in the market or in bonds, one of those two things. And very often people don't really know what we do for a living and how. And when I say, you know, I insure your 401k. You what? Yeah, no, I insure
it.
your 401k. How do you insure my 401k? I have the tools to do it. That's what I do. I insure it and I guarantee you income for the rest of your life.
They still don't get it, huh?
Yeah, no. I insure your money. I don't do it. Some multi-billion-dollar companies insure your money. But that's the thing, is you want to have that one piece. You want to have that one piece that you need to make sure that you're not eating cat food. Okay.
Right.
And so, although cat food's expensive, I got 5 cats. Trust me. I see.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
everything.
so, my wife has 5 cats. Okay. So. Anyhow, you want to make sure that that money that you're spending is coming out of that green bucket that you're paying yourself to take care of life. Whereas that red bucket money that's completely discretionary, that's where those allocations come in.
Now, Mr. and Mrs. Boomer, this couple retired and they thought, we didn't think enough about the cost of health care. Even if they retired on Medicare, they're still out-of-pocket costs.
Well, yeah. There's of course, if you're on Medicare, you have to pay for at least your Part B and also possibly your Part D and also your Medicare supplement. As we know, that's a completely different story. But very often, he's like, not everybody retires at the same time. Okay, you know, it'd be cool if you could, but also they're not the same age. So therefore, some people, it's like earlier today, I met with a couple that she's a couple years behind on her, you know, before she gets to Medicare, where he was much easier. I took care of his Medicare, whereas hers is just like, we got to take a look at what's better, what works best for you. And so when you do that, I take into account their health, any kind of medication, because the most likely way of going for anybody under the age of 65 is the Affordable Health Care Act. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm not degrading it. I mean, it's awesome for what it does, but I give it a solid 5.
I'm actually thinking Miss Bones probably could use some health care.
I think that ship has passed. The Jolly Roger is no longer with us. Okay.
Okay, so a little late for that. We'll bring Mrs. Bones back in, though. One more thing. We've got about a minute here. Long-term care, which Medicare doesn't really cover, does it?
Well, no, not at all, actually. I mean, you know, Medicaid will take care of it, but you really don't want a loved one in a Medicaid facility, basically.
Right.
And so a lot of people, some people look at, you know, utilizing, the long-term care plans. And a lot of people realize real quick that long-term care plans use it or lose it proposition. But here's the problem, Dave. A lot of people don't realize the prices on the long-term care plan that they sign up for 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, is going to go up. That's the thing that people don't realize, and they would not accept that plan if they knew that.
And if Mr. and Mrs. Boomer had been aware of alternatives, they would have talked to Greg about it and looked into the alternatives to long-term care insurance and these other strategies. You can find out about it. Don't have regrets. Get it together. Find out a consultation that is comprehensive and at no cost, no obligation available. Call the number on your screen.
Folks, just like a perfect pass, your retirement plan needs precision and strategy. In the Big Book on Retirement, I lay out the game plan for your successful future. From the kickoff to the final whistle, the Big Book on Retirement covers every strategy you need for a winning retirement. I break it down like a football play, making it easy for you to understand and execute my strategies. The Big Book on Retirement is your playbook to success. Get your copy of the Big Book on Retirement today and start planning your victory party with me by your side all the way through retirement. Hey folks, Coach Pete here with Marty Hensley. We're joining you here from the Money Desk. Got a real special report on the financial red zone, how important it is to make sure you identify what it is. And every family's different, Marty, when we talk about the red zone. You want to give a quick definition to the folks what the red zone is?
Basically, we talked about the financial red zone, how important that is to understand what that is. Typically, that's about 10 years or less to retirement. And then when you get in that financial red zone, your goals change, your objectives change, your whole philosophy toward investing money needs to change and be, it needs to evolve where, when you're 10 years or less to retirement, your goals and objectives are much different than you were when you were in the accumulation phase back in your 30s and 40s.
Yeah, we need to, number one, reduce financial risk as we get close to the red zone or in. And like I always say, once you're in the red zone, you're never out, but we can show you how to make sure you never have any problems in the red zone. I mean, when we get close to a city, you're approaching the city limits, and you go around the city like this, you're never out of the city limits, but you're always circling it. Same with the red zone. So reducing risk, very important as we get close to that red zone, correct?
That is a discussion we have with our viewers, our listeners almost every single day, is when you get in that financial red zone, a big conversation point is risk tolerance.
Yeah.
That risk tolerance has to be adjusted because as you're at or approaching retirement, you need to be more and more risk averse. And we're not, you get in retirement and that's not the time to use the Las Vegas term, to roll the dice. That's not the time to do that. So one of the things we talk about at great length is reducing that risk and seeing and identifying what your risk tolerance is. And we want to have a plan that's hand in glove with whatever that risk tolerance that you tell us, where you're comfortable, and that's what's important.
Well, today as we tape this webinar, this introduction to webinar, it is August 5th, 2024. And right when we came in the studio, the market, Dow was down 900 points. So how many calls have we got today from folks that are worried? None, right?
Zero.
Because our clients know that they are taken care of. We don't have all their money that they're going to need for retirement tied to risk. Matter of fact, most of the money we have for retirement is not tied to risk. It's in safe places that guarantee lifetime income. How important is that when we get close to the red zone to make sure we have an income plan or two or three that aren't tied to the stock market?
I would be diminishing the fact if I said that's crucially important because it's not, we talk about sequencing of returns and how important that is. And so imagine last week, we've seen the last few days just been unbelievably volatile.
Yep.
What happens if you said, I'm going to retire this week and my first paycheck coming out of my retirement plan just happens to be on the day that the market's down 600 points? That's going to cause some animosity.
Yeah, and the market's going to go up and down every single day the rest of our lives.
Right.
But the secret is not to depend on the market for your return and to make sure your retirement is safe because the market can go up and down all around. So get some money, isolate it, eliminate the market risk, and make sure you turn on that lifetime income switch. Now, one other thing when we talk about the red zone is managing our health care risks in the future, getting a long-term care policy, getting med-sup policies correctly. What would you tell people that are curious about the medical aspects of retirement?
Yeah, any of our listeners, any of our viewers on all the different outlets that we use, I mean, those are exactly the financial part, investing the money, that certainly is probably the most important part, but we want to talk about some of those other things. We want to have a Social Security claiming strategy. We want to have that put together. We want to be sure your health insurance is in check. We're going to hold your hand when you get there in your mid-60s and getting signed up for Medicare, Part A, Part B. We want to be sure you're in the right plan there. We want to see if you have a long-term care policy. Is that one of the best policies that you can own? We want to look at your life insurance. Do I have a life insurance policy that makes sense for my situation? And when I'm in that retirement red zone, that life insurance may or may not be as big a deal as it was maybe back when I had a huge mortgage and I wanted my family taken care of in case something were to happen.
Yeah, the financial red zone, big thing. Age-appropriate investing we talk about there too, making sure that we aren't at too much risk when we get in that financial red zone. Making arrangements. Now, I have the Little Green Book of Life. It's a bestseller. It's a 100 pages interactive book where we can write in some of our aspects of our life, where our safety deposit boxes are. If we have a life insurance policy, does that life insurance policy offer long-term care? Many times you might not even need a long-term care policy if you have the right life insurance policy. We're going to talk about that, how to make sure that you get the right coach for the time of your life you're in. We're going to do a webinar on this and many more topics, folks. And so we got the link on the screen to sign up for that webinar. Very informative. You're going to have a lot of take-home material too. And anyone who does attend the webinar, we're going to send a copy of my brand new book. It's 316 pages. The Big Book on Retirement. What are your opinions on that Big Book of Retirement?
And I'd tell you, I've read it twice. I think it's a fantastic tool for folks that are at or approaching that financial red zone. And even more important to that, I think it'd be important to read it even if you're not in the zone, so to speak, before as you're approaching retirement, maybe 15 years out from retirement.
Right. So the financial red zone, folks, it's something to address. We're all going to be there. It's better than the alternative of not living that long. But if you're within retirement, you're in that financial red zone. If you're in retirement, you're in that financial red zone. If you're 50 or older, you really need to check out this webinar. There's the link on your screen. We'll see you over there on the webinar. Marty Hensley, Coach Pete, see you next time. Hey, I'm Coach Pete Deruta, president of Capital Financial. Folks, the financial world is very, very confusing. That's why we put together a series of educational videos called webinars. You can see them at any time by signing up at CoachPete.com. We'll see you there. Dave, someone has $100,000. That's all the money they have. They say, Coach, I'm putting it all in the market because I need to catch up to where my neighbors are. And then the next year, the market goes down 30%. So it went from 100,000 down to 70,000. Yeah. Say, I'm not stressing, Coach. All I have to do is earn 30% back next year, and I'll be back to even. True or false statement?
I'd say that's false.
Yes, because you're down 30%, which is down to 70,000. You lost 30,000. To get it back to 100,000, you have to gain 43% just to get back to where you started. Yeah. I don't see many stocks up 43% in 1 year. Some are. Yeah. Hey, I'm not saying not, but I mean, is that a safe and certain strategy? No. And so that's why you need to have the core filled up first before we ever look at the Explorer. And again, it's counterintuitive than what you hear from all the Wall Street folks that are spending millions of dollars a day telling you to put all your money at risk.
Having that rebalancing is very, very important. I know I overuse that word crucial, but it is crucially important. And so what we want to do is be sure we want to find a way that we want to enhance long-term returns. How do we do that? And a big part of that is that whole idea of the rebalancing, to be sure that my investments are invested commensurate with my age. And so we see so many people. I just talked to a listener just the other day, and he came in, and I told him point blank, we were looking at his portfolio, and I said, he was, I think, in his mid-60s, and I said, if you were 40 years old, I would say you're exactly on track, and he goes, holy cow. And I go, yeah, problem is we're not 40. We're not 40 anymore. And so he says, so we need to make some major adjustments. And I said, yes, and that's absolutely here, as we're just talking about, that's where the conversation that we need to do a major rebalance from a standpoint to be sure that everything is in line with our age. And he was in a situation where it made a lot of sense for a 40-year-old, but made 0 sense for someone in their mid-60s. So, that rebalancing is very important. We talk about all the different asset classes with, you want to talk about what I've got and invested in the stock market, what I have that's protected that's our whole mantra here is the growth, protection, and income. I want to be sure that I'm getting that growth, I'm getting that protection, and I'm getting that income, and I'm getting that all in a way that makes sense for me. Now, we believe that we should have the growth where we need some money that's invested in risk-type investments, invested in the market, but at the same time, we want to have some of that money that's invested for protection. And so in our world, it takes kind of that market timing out of the equation. Is I kind of put a stake in the ground. This is what I've got protected. I put a stake in the ground. This is what I have invested, in the risk type investments, and then they work hand in glove with each other. And so that takes a lot of that kind of question mark out of there when we talk about some of this rebalancing and so forth, and that I don't have to worry about that kind of the market timing. Is my timing going into this investment or that investment? We try to take that out of the equation as much as we possibly can and put something in place where it just simply makes sense. Now I want my investments, I want those to start to distribute me income on a month-to-month basis. And then that's when we put a plan together and we talk about Social Security and we talk about, investment income and where's that income come from. And we talk about tax consequences and we talk about Roth IRAs. We talk about traditional IRAs. We talk about all these different type things. because when we want that income in retirement, and again, I don't mean to be repetitive here, but we want that income coming to us in the most reliable, predictable way that we can. But more importantly, we also want it coming to us in the most tax efficient way.
Do you hear that? That's me enjoying my retirement. Traveling around the world to play golf, where I want, when I want, with whomever I want. Even got some customized clubs. Because years ago, I rolled over my IRA with the help of a local trusted advisor. Contact us to get started today. This is a no-cost, no-obligation retirement review to help educate and enlighten.
Welcome back to Financial Safari. I'm Dave Perkins along with Coach Pete's local trusted advisor, Greg Berrien. We're going to get into something we call strategy du jour. I must admit, Greg gave me a homework assignment last week. I did not find out. We want to call it strategy of the week. I don't know the term yet, the French term for that.
We'll have to look. Okay.
Well,
I forgot all about that. But thank you for reminding me.
I remembered that I forgot.
Okay.
But we'll have it next week. But what we do is we take a hypothetical scenario, very relatable, and Greg shows you how this works. Before we get into that, we'll have a conversation with someone who joins us today and did not take advantage of the proper strategies for retirement. This is Mrs. Bones. Mrs. Bones, what so far are you getting from the show today?
That I didn't prepare appropriately for retirement, and now I have grave concerns.
Grave. Oh, Mrs. Bone is punny.
She's very punny today.
Very punny. Okay.
Well,
hey, where's your funny bone?
We're still in the Halloween spirit here. So, but we're going to show Mrs. Bones here the strategies Greg will talk about. We have a couple. Both are 63.
Yep.
They have $525,000. They want to turn it on. They're ready.
Turn on.
Turn it on.
Let her rip. All right, we're going to look at two different scenarios. One we have to show by law. We call it the zombie apocalypse,
Okay.
end times. Thank you.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Feel right at
Totally
home.
intended. All right, and then we're going to look at how the market how the market behaves.
Yes.
In the event that the market behaves, it is. So the first one is if the market went down for the next 25, 30 years. All right, here's what's beautiful about this, Dave. Now, let's say that was $525,000 into a pension, and then you're going to say, I'm going to get $28,350 for the rest of our life, because you take the pension out on both lives.
Right.
Let's say these two, Mr. and Mrs. Bones were out traveling in their RV, and they died in a car crash, RV crash, okay? All right, this money that they put into that strategy, into that pension, it goes away. Okay? Because that's pension money.
Oh, I see.
So what we're
Okay.
doing is instead of having that money go into a pension, it's going to go into an account that will act just like a pension. And so the worst case scenario, you're going to get $28,350 for the rest of their life.
But just to clear it up, if they were to die in that car crash, that
Anything
doesn't go
left
away.
goes to the family.
To the family, okay.
Talk about legacy. It goes directly to the family. Now let's go 5 years further. They're going to get the same thing, but now that $28,350 after 5 years, they're getting they've gotten $175,000.
Okay.
And by the way, also they're getting this at a rate of 5.4%.
Which is better than the 4%.
Precisely. And then let's go 5 years down the road, age 73. They've taken out $340,200, and then we're going to jump to 88. A lot of people are getting there. And that's $453,600 that they would have taken out. So this is the worst possible case scenario.
That's the market going down for 25 years.
Yeah, but the thing is, here's the problem. Let's say the market went down for 25 years. Your 525 is not 525. It's more 300.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
We've all seen it. Anybody who's watching this show, you've lived through this. You've lived through this multiple times. 2001, 2008, 2020, it bounced right back. But yeah, that would go down to 300,000. And if you're taking 28,000 out of 300,000, how long is that money going to last you?
No, not long.
Not at all.
Right.
So now this is if the market does what the market does. It goes up, it goes down, but normal activity. All right, they're going to get $28,350. Okay, just like if the market went down. But this is where the rubber hits the road here, Dave. 68 years old, 5 years later, That's a $12,000 increase. Talk about beating inflation.
Yeah. No
This
doubt.
is what it's all about. You know, if you're getting this, you're not, and you're getting this down here too, you're not beating inflation. And now we'll go to 73. Now 73, if the market continues to go up and if things continue to do what they're supposed to do, you're going to be getting $59,872.
That's really factoring inflation.
Yeah. Now, one thing, as we get closer to this, pay attention to this. $453,000 at the age of 88.
Okay.
Now, let's go to, that's total. Let's go to age 88. And what are they going to be getting now? They're going to be getting, actually, the amount is $76,000
per year.
That's like 15% of what you already put into it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so let's get a grand total at the age of 88. Now you finally pass away. You've gotten $803,627. Now, Dave, Mrs. Bones, would you rather have this when you look like this or this when you look like this at the end of the day?
I'm going to go with 800,000 every day.
Yeah.
I'll take the 800,000 for Bill.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no doubt. So that's what they've claimed because it was normal market conditions.
Normal market conditions.
Okay.
This is worst possible scenario that could have happened, and God willing, and it's already happened once. You know, back during the Great Depression. Why they call it the Great Depression? It was a horrible depression. But
Right.
anyhow, and then this is really normal circumstances that we're looking at.
Okay.
So talk about taking we're taking the risk off the table, and we're taking the worry off of your mind.
Obviously, I love the second option better, but I don't mind the first option because you have protection in worst case scenario.
Oh yeah, if you're pulling in $28,000 and that went down to $300,000,
Yeah.
you're pulling in 9%. You're taking out
Very
9%
good.
of what you have. You can't beat that, Dave.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to see how that can work for you, call the number or text the number on your screen. You know, we opened with Mr. and Mrs. Boomer, another fictional couple here, and they retired with some regrets. Wish they had thought a little bit more about a few things like proper diversification, what their expenses in retirement would actually be. Another mistake we have for you that they feel like they wish they paid more attention to was how they claim Social Security.
Yeah. First of all, with Social Security, it's really difficult to actually, because you don't know how long you're going to be on this planet. The Social Security Administration, they're projecting that you're going to live between the age of 78 and 80 years old. Alrighty. So when I work with a married couple like Mr. and Mrs. Boomer, I like to see the smaller Social Security be turned on first, with the larger one going a little bit later. Because the reason is if you're both going to wait till 67 or 70 years old, and then all of a sudden one of you dies and nobody took money out, all the money that smaller one put into there, it could be $50,000, $70,000, $80,000, goes right back to the federal government. Well,
Again, Social Security maximization, another part of that comprehensive review you can claim for yourself if you call or text the number on your screen. I want to take just a moment to thank our special guest, Mrs. Bones.
Thanks, it was a real thrill.
Oh,
And it's really never too late, right? Even for Mrs. Bones. So call, get in, talk to the team, and thanks so much for being a part of this show. We hope you are again next week for Financial Safari.